For many episodes, I have been talking about your world and mine, your life and mine, and our universe. That's what this show is about. There are things that bother us every day, and we may not have the answer. But the founder of Unlearn Living, Mr. Kuldeep Kalawar, is right here with us, with you and me, to clear our mind and our thoughts. Today's topic is important and it hits us all. When you don't get what you want, when things go beyond your control, when things don't happen the way you hoped, or when you lose someone near and dear, when you're unable to have that energy and spirit to charge at each day and tackle life and its events on a daily basis, it leads to depression. We all go through it. We may not know or acknowledge its presence, but the journey of life is incomplete without it. How much you let it govern you is only in your hands. Don't believe me? Here's what our ancient Vedanta says about it. Over to you, sir.
Depression is a subject which has been talked about, and medicine has also tried to understand it and even, attend to it. But you find that allopathic medicines do not really impact the mind that much. They do have some salutary effects, but that's about all. Correcting the mind, making sure it gets out of depression, is an issue which is not really understood because it lies completely within you. Your mind itself needs to treat the mind. Depression is a state of mind. It is not a state of body. Body ills can be tackled by physical medicine because the body is physical. Problems of the mind, unfortunately, are not material, they are not physical, they go beyond the physical. So anything physical does not impact the mind at all. So let's understand what is this depression. Depression is a state of mind. But first we have to understand the mind before we can correct the mind. So what is it that we have to understand? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. You were born a human being with a mind and a body. Both the mind and the body were gifts of God, your creator, to you, so that you can run your life using your mind and body. If you notice, throughout your life, from the day you were born till your last day, these are the two instruments which are your constant companions and help you live life. These are the instruments which have been given us free of cost. We don't get a bill at the end of the month. What God gives is free. What man gives invariably has a you get a invoice at the end of the month asking you to pay up. So because it has come free, we do not really care much for it. I would say, take it for granted. But they are such beautiful instruments which have capabilities beyond your imagination. So understanding that, let's be clear now. What is the mind? It is the mind and the body combination which actually helps you run your life. You think about something and your body does it. You want something and your body goes around to get it for you. You want to go somewhere, your body gets up and walks. It is all, it happens in such a, in instantly, so you're not aware of the sequence of what happens. But if you look at it, it's like a car and a driver. The car by itself cannot do anything without a driver. It cannot move an inch. It cannot decide anything. It has no ability to think. It is just a machine like a car. But it's only when the driver sits in that car that the car behaves like a living thing, living being. That is exactly what happens when a person is unconscious. When a person is unconscious, the mind is not working, and therefore he is just asleep. He doesn't, I mean, he's not reacting, he's not responding. So it is the mind which drives this body. You are the owner of this car and driver. And this driver should be listening to you. He should be obeying your orders. At a particular moment of time, the cooperation between the mind and the body, as long as you're young, you find you can just think about anything and you can just do it. You want to climb a tree, you can just climb. You don't have to think, worry about your body not being able to do it. What happens after some time is you find that your mind is not obeying you. In fact, many times it goes against you. And that is what Arjuna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Why is it that I know that I shouldn't be doing this, but yet I find I'm doing it? So that's the situation where you reach. That is the situation where actually your mind is now has got two bosses. You are the real boss of both the car and the driver, the mind and the body. But at a particular moment of time, stealthily, without your knowing what is happening, suddenly you find your mind and body has been hijacked. Hijacked by whom? Mr. Ego. What is ego? Where did he come into the picture? From where has he come? But the fact is, you have invited him in. You have pampered him. You have made him your best friend. And in the process of building up that level of confidence with him, you began to trust him so much that he has hijacked your whole. So let me explain to you in simple terms what actually happened, so you're clear about it. And then we'll talk about the consequences, which is depression, etc., etc. Actually, before every decision you take, you'll find there are two voices in your mind. And these voices have been there right from your childhood. You didn't recognize these at that point, but there have always been two voices. Whenever you take any decision, these two voices pop up in your mind. What are these two voices? One voice is of God who created you, your creator. God, being your parent, wants only his child to prosper. He wants his child to be happy. But he also doesn't want his child getting into trouble. So the first voice of God, voice for God, we call it, is always warning you. In case he doesn't guide you, he just warns you, please don't do this. That's it. He just stopped at that. But there's another voice which tempts you. Let me give you an example to clarify this. A diabetic patient, a severely diabetic patient, has been told by the doctor, no sweets at all, just nothing, just stop. And now this person goes to a friend's house. The friend knows that this friend of mine is fond of this particular sweet meat, and because he's coming, he brings that sweet meat and offers it him along with a cup of tea, etc. So, and the friend tells him, because you're coming, I brought this and I know you like it. So this person says, I've been banned. I've been told all sweets have been banned. My doctor has said I can't touch it. So he says, see, you have not been eating for such a long. This is the first time I brought it for you since you were coming. Why don't you have one bit? Okay, one piece you have. Now, in this person's mind, the first voice says, what did the doctor say? Do you remember what he said? Please don't touch it. That's it. There's another voice which says, wow, you have not had this for such a long time. What does it matter? Just have one little bit, have a small piece of it, taste it, and don't disappoint your friend. He's taken so much of effort to get it for you. Have a little piece. Okay, so you give it, and you have a little piece, and that one little piece is not enough. You have the whole piece altogether. So this is how Mr. Ego is constantly tempting you. This second voice is the voice of ego, constantly tempting you. But why is he tempting you? What is it he's going to gain? Let me explain to you. This is where people do not understand the deeper significance of the second voice. Mr. Ego is like a potential tenant who comes to your house. Your house is a well-appointed house. It's got servants, and you've got a spare room, etc., to offer. And you're quite a prosperous man. You're doing well, but a prosperous person. You're doing well. You have all the facilities available. You have a servant who does the cooking. You have a person who does it. There's nothing missing. Here's this person who's willing to pay you a certain amount, and he wants to rent your place, 1 room or 2 rooms or whatever it is. He wants to be a tenant of yours. Well, he comes in and he talks very nicely. He's well behaved. He's polite, and he seems to be well educated. Seems to be doing well, and you agree to his coming in. You're a busy person. You're probably in business. You travel abroad. You're going in and out, and etc. And over the next couple of months, he is a very fine friend of yours. And in fact, you find that he's quite well informed. He's prompt in his payments. You have no problem with it. In fact, you find him pretty cooperative. When you have any needs, he says, "Don't worry, I'll do it. You go, don't worry about it, I'll manage it." So slowly he gets into your system in terms of trust. Now you trust him, and you spend more time outside because now you don't have to worry. You trust him, and he begins to now slowly take over various functions of the house. And he becomes more or less a sort of a caretaker in your absence. You are confident that he can handle them. So what you do not realize is he is building up confidence and trust in every person in the house. And now, just as you begin to trust him, they also trust him. In fact, they think, "ये साहब का दोस्त है, बहुत बढ़िया आदमी है," because he pampers them. Whenever they have a problem, he solves it for them. If they need a loan, he gives them a loan. So now they are beginning to get a situation arises now where now the servants have 2 bosses. The first boss, the owner, real owner, is not keeping track. He is not aware of what is going on behind his back. So over a year and a half, 2 years, what happens now? What begins to happen is now slowly they begin to obey this person and give him more importance than you. You are the owner. You're paying the salaries for them. But behind the scenes, this man has taken effective control of your whole house. That's exactly what Mr. Ego does with your body and your mind. So now the driver, the mind, has now got confused, and he listens more to Mr. Ego. Why? Because he is also enjoying life. Mr. Ego wants to use your body and your sense organs, your servants. Your sense organs are your servants. Use your body to enjoy himself. Ego wants to enjoy himself at your cost. And that's what happens now. Now you find that you don't want to do something, but you still have to do it. I mean, you're forced to do it because your mind is now taking that body of yours in a totally different direction. So this is the sum and substance, in short, about what happens when Mr. Ego takes over. How ego comes in, what exactly is the strategy, what is his planning, how he dominates, that's a part of our course, which we discuss in level 1, 2, 3, etc. So let's take further this subject a little forward. This, you will see in your mind each day, you have so many thoughts going through your mind. And your mind at this moment of time, the normal mind at this moment of time, is like an open house. Anybody can walk in, anybody can walk out. And there is no one to take care of your house with the doors open. So any person can come in, he can use your fridge, he can eat whatever he wants, he can drink whatever he wants, he can lie down on your bed, he can use your TV, lounge around a little while, and then move out. Imagine if you get about 30, 40, 50 people walking in like that every day and going out. Each thought which enters your mind is like that uninvited person coming into your mind. Can you imagine how many thoughts a day you get? At the end of the day, what would be the condition of that house? That is the condition of the normal person's mind who doesn't understand what is going on in his mind. So during the day, you get you get positive thoughts, you get negative thoughts, and each thought has creates an effect. Every every flow of energy has an impact, creates an impact. Even a whiff of wind, there may be no rain, nothing, but even a whiff of wind goes across a glass window. It leaves a thin film of dust, which you do not realize in the beginning. But after some time, you realize even though there is no rain, nothing, but still a little, the glass is not as transparent as it was. So you need to clean it up. Every flow of thought leaves an impact in your system. What is it? Emotions. So during the day, you're tossed from happy to sadness, joyful, depression, where you're miserable, you feel miserable, you feel good, you're tossed around from one extreme to another. So your mind is tossed around between two extremes. What are the extremes? Some moments you're happy, some moments you're sad. Happiness, sadness, happiness, sadness. You're constantly oscillating during the day because of these unchecked thoughts. When you go to sleep, because of this oscillation, you get tired and you go to sleep. In the night, you go to sleep and then you get up fresh again in the morning. But during the night, what has happened? All those positive, negative, etc., that crisscross flow of emotions has been absorbed by your system, and it has an impact on your system. We call it garbage thoughts. What happens here is during the night, everything comes back to normal. And that pointer of the mind, if you take the pointer of a mind, which swings from one extreme to the other, during the night, it is totally relaxed, everything comes back, and your pointer comes back to the center. And when you start the next day again, you are fresh. If you listen to ego, second voice, gradually this pointer doesn't rest at the center. Now it tends towards the sadness side. So over a period of time, because you've been constantly pampering your ego, you eat. It's a free life. You can eat what you want. You can go what you want. You can do what you want because you're young. Gradually, what happens is now that pointer begins to tend more and more towards the other extreme. The net result of all this is over a period of time, you now become sadder and sadder and sadder and sadder, or you become happier and happier and happier. With the result, these two extreme polarities is called bipolarity. So you swing from one extreme, it stays there for some time, and then swings to the other. This swing from these two sides is called bipolarity. You're swinging from here to here, here to here. When it gets stuck on one side, it is called depression. When it is stuck on this side, you're trying to get it back. And sometimes the person says, sometimes the wife says, this fellow, sometimes he is very enthusiastic, sometimes he is in great depression. I do not know what to do. What is this going on? Well, the medical fraternity terms it as bipolar. They've understood bipolar, but what to do about it is something which partly they have understood, partly yet to understand. This is what actually happens when Mr. Ego comes into the picture. And this is a frame of mind. Depression is a frame of mind. What is the way out of this? Now, when you get depressed, it also impacts the body, because after all, if the driver is not in a good mood and is totally sad, he just doesn't want to drive. Now you tend to isolate yourself, because a person who's depressed, because Mr. Ego, how does he do it? Mr. Ego has this beautiful habit. He tempts you to do something, and when the diabetic patient falls seriously ill, the same ego blames him. Why did you have the sweets? You are not supposed to have sweets. But he doesn't remind him that it is I who tempted you. And the patient also forgets that. He thinks he is guilty for it, because he doesn't realize it is ego. He doesn't realize the presence of ego in himself. At that moment of time, ego and he are one. They're best friends. They are the Langoti yards, as we call it. They're such good friends that whatever he thinks, he thinks. Whatever he thinks, he thinks. So he doesn't realize that, and he puts the guilt on himself. This habit of making you feel guilty and ultimately making you feel guilty, in the beginning, he puts the blame outside. And later on, when he finds that he is not able to get much from this person, because this person goes on getting sick, now his ability to get things from outside and use his body is really restricted. The body is not in a good condition. Now he begins to blame the body. You are useless. You are no good. You are not worth it. Now a person begins to feel that he is not worth it. He is guilty. All that guilt builds up inside him. That accelerates the process towards depression. So what happens here is, what do you want to do about it? What do we do about it? In Vedanta, Vedanta says, honor these two voices and be careful which voice you seek. You choose. You have to choose your voice. If you choose God's voice, he will not put you in any trouble, because he will ensure that his child is safe. If you obey ego's voice, gradually this mind of yours becomes more and more and more negative, 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 negative. And a certain situation is reached where that mind is unable to come back. How to handle that? That's a part of the courses which we talk about. We'll talk about that separately in the course itself. But this is what happens. But if you can tighten up yourself and discipline yourself and make sure you listen to what the first voice is telling you, you yourself will find you'll be able to get out of that depression.
True, sir. That's so true. But even in that, it's a bit, to be able to accept that, you have made the mistakes for so long, and then to be able to, correct that. That itself is another battle with ego.
That refusal to accept is also caused by ego.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I was saying. Like one of my would say that, you'll always have these choices and there will be an easy way out. But if you go that easy way out, you're never going to be able to, actually achieve what you want to.
That's Shreya and Priya.
Prayer, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's Shreya and Priya.
Yeah.
Exactly what
exactly.
happens.
Yeah.
So Vedanta has analyzed all the mind so beautifully. You get answers to everything. There's nothing.
So true. Great. So if you like what you're listening to, I'm sure you do, and I'm sure it's got you thinking, do hit the subscribe button and the bell icon right away. Do visit our website, unlearnliving.in, for more information and join the level 1 course and begin from there. And if you have any questions for Sir and more doubts that you want to get clarified, please email us at unlearnliving@gmail.com and we will try and answer your questions in this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.